Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel and a new video. So today's video is about a topic pedigree analysis from the chapter Principles of Inheritance and Variation. So let's start. So first we will see what does pedigree analysis actually mean. So an analysis of traits in several of generations of a family is called as a pedigree analysis. So in pedigree analysis there is a family tree. And from that, you have to identify which type of disease is this. So here are the four types of diseases. First is autosomal dominant disease. Here, father passes the disease to son and mother passes the disease to daughter. That means this disease is transferred to the same gender. Second is affected parents may have unaffected offsprings. That means even though parents are affected with the disease, this disease cannot be seen in their offsprings. This is also a case in autosomal dominant disease. Second is autosomal recessive. Here an important characteristic is given, which is skipping of generation. With these characteristics, you can easily identify this disease. Second is unaffected parents may have affected offsprings. This is opposite as in the case of autosomal dominant. Third is X-linked dominant disease. Here, disease is transferred from father to daughter and mother to son, that is to the opposite gender. And this type of inheritance is called as crisscross inheritance. Second, if father is affected, all the daughters are affected. That means if father has this disease, X-linked dominant disease, then all the daughters, even though there is one daughter or four daughters, all of them should or must be affected. Then you can say that the disease is X-linked dominant. And the last is X-linked recessive. Here again crisscross inheritance, and an affected son has unaffected parents. That means even though the son has this disease, his parents may not have this disease. So unaffected parents with affected son. This is in the case of X-linked recessive disease. Now we will see this with some examples. So here are these two examples from NCERT itself. Now how to identify a particular trait. So the first step is naming all the generations in a family tree. Now here, this is the first generation, this is the second generation, and these two are third generation. Most of the students get confused in this. They will in a hurry name this as second generation and this as fourth generation. But no, here you can see from the two generations, these are the offsprings. This means this is also the third generation. So don't get confused in this. Now, second step is see whether there is skipping of generation or not. Because we know this is a characteristic of autosomal recessive trait. So if you find there is a skipping of generation, then you can directly write it as autosomal recessive. But here you cannot see there a skipping of generation. That means this can't be autosomal recessive. Now we will see that who is transferring disease to whom. Now here, who is affected? Mother is affected. She has passed this disease to her one son and one daughter. And this daughter has passed this disease again to only her daughter, not to her sons. That means this can't be X-linked disease because daughter has passed. That means this mother has passed a female to her daughter who is also a female, that is to the same gender. So we know that this case is only seen in autosomal traits. And as there is no skipping of generation, so this is not a recessive trait. That means this is autosomal dominant trait. In this way, you can identify a particular trait by eliminating the options. Now, second, again, first step is naming the generations. First, second, and third. So there are three generations. Now see whether there is skipping of generation or not. So here itself in the first generation you can see parents are unaffected. That means here you cannot see anyone affected. So here you can't see any disease. But in the second and third generation, offsprings are affected. That means there is skipping of generation. So here answer is directly autosomal recessive disease. This was a simple one. Now a short reminder for all of you. If you really like the videos on my channel, don't forget to subscribe my channel 360 Biology by Saharsha and click the bell icon to get notifications of more such new videos. Now third, naming of generations. Here already given first, second and third. So three generations. Second step, see whether there is skipping of generation or not. So here is no skipping of generation. That means eliminate autosomal recessive trait option. Now here again the mother is affected and she has passed this trait to one son and one daughter. And this daughter has passed again this to her daughter. That means this is again autosomal dominant trait. Now fourth, naming of generations, first, second and third. So three generations. Now second, see whether there is skipping of generation or not. So here you cannot see any skipping of generation. Third step, here mother is affected and she has passed this disease to one daughter and one son. And this daughter has passed her disease again to her daughter. That means this is autosomal disease. And as there is no skipping of generation, so this is again autosomal dominant trait. Fifth example. Now name the generations. First generation, second generation, third generation and fourth generation. Second step, see whether there is skipping of generation or not. So here you can see this is the offspring of first generation. That is, this is the second generation and here you cannot see any individual affected. That means this is an unaffected individual. So there is skipping of generation. So the answer is autosomal recessive disease. Now next and sixth example. Here first step is naming of the generations. So this is the first generation, second and third. Next is see whether there is skipping of generation. So here we see there is no skipping of generation. Next, here mother is affected and she has passed the trait to both of her sons. That means transfer of the disease to the opposite gender. That means this is X-linked disease. Now we have to just identify whether this is X-linked dominant or recessive. So in X-linked recessive characteristics, if we see, there is given that affected son may have unaffected parents. So in the second and third generation, you can see these are unaffected parents, but they have one affected son. And this characteristics is of X-linked recessive disease. So this trait is X-linked recessive. And the last example, name the generations first, second, and third. Here again we cannot see any skipping of generation. Here mother is affected who has passed this disease to one son and one daughter. And here in the second generation, father is affected and he has passed this disease to only his two daughters. That means to the opposite gender. So this is again X-linked disease. Now identify whether this is X-linked dominant or recessive. So here we cannot see, we are not able to see any characteristic of X-linked recessive. And in X-linked dominant, there is a characteristic that affected fathers, all daughters must be affected. So here you can see father is affected and all his daughters. He has two daughters and all of them are affected. That means this is X-linked dominant trait. So in this way, you have to identify the family tree and the type of trait they are facing. So if you like this video, click on the like button and again don't forget to subscribe my channel to get more such new videos. Thank you.